everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your AMAC podcast, Better for America. And today I am so honored to have with us the founder of a remarkable organization, No Left Turn in Education. Now, NoLeftTurn.us, go ahead and check them out. They are focused on restoring parental function in public education, and they are mobilizing parents all over the country to organize and become actively involved in overseeing the education of their children. With us now is a real fighter. Her name, Dr. Elana Fishbein. Elana, we are delighted to have you with us today on the show.
Thank you. I'm thrilled that I'm invited to be on your show and explain what we are doing and how we are fighting to regain our schools and make sure our exceptional country does not go the communist way.
This is so important, Elana, and that's why I was so excited last night thinking about this interview with you today and this morning. We need to be engaged in this conversation. And AMAC's 2.4 million members, they readily recognize that critical race theory, or CRT, is really grounded in Marxist, it's racism, it's really about the anti-American idea that we can all pursue and achieve the American dream. I would love for you, Elana, to share with us your personal experience as a mom that led you to form No Left Turn in Education. And I am so thrilled. We here at AMAC are so thrilled that you made that decision. Share with us your story.
Yeah, over the years, I've noticed that my kids in public school have been giving an increased dosage of political ideology that was not actually favorable to America, and a lie. And over the years, we decided that this is something that we would not really would like to give our children. And we decided to pull them out of school. However, at the same time, we got the COVID, and we started seeing what they're exposing our kids to even closer. Because, your kids come from school, they have their books, they have the material, and you really don't know what's actually the teacher is telling the kids in the classroom. Then we got to pick at it when we got the COVID and they had distance learning. So we pulled our kids out of school. But at the same time, when the school was over, I had to confront the superintendent of the school board, and I wrote them a letter questioning what's the validity and the purpose of teaching them racist material, because that's exactly the kind of books that they have been introducing them to. One of the most infamous one is book about whiteness, Not My Idea, which eventually, when I was on Tucker Carlson, shortly after I launched the movement, he featured that book. And there's no other way but to identify this book as a blatant racism and completely opposite of the ideology of Martin Luther King. What really made me launch the movement was when I broke the information out and I was sharing it with parents and other people. People were afraid to speak up. Either I was attacked publicly by parents and other people as being racist because I'm questioning the material, or people that supported us called and contacted me and said that they're afraid to speak up. They agree with me. That's when I decided being afraid, hunkering down is not going to save us, because they are after us. We saw what happened in the violent summer of 2020, and it was very obvious they will not stop at nothing in coming after us, our kids, and our way of life as free Americans.
It's so important that we're having this conversation. I think there are a lot of folks who don't really believe it. They may not have children in school. They may think that it's just more rhetoric, and they may not understand what's really happening here. When you get your hands on a book like this that is really meant to not teach kids, how to think, but teaching kids what to think. That's when we really recognize that there's something wrong with the public education today. And this moving away from really holding people accountable, individual responsibility, judging people on the content of their character, not on the color of their skin. Those are things that make America great. That's part of the America idea, the America dream. And what boggles my mind is that there are people who don't embrace the American dream, people who want to see America go so far left that we're no longer the free nation that we are. And it's mind-boggling to folks like you and I when we say, how could you turn your back on families, on concerned parents? Your organization has been so important in the battle to really restore sanity and perhaps, I think, most of all, transparency to public education, because we need transparency. In your view, what motivates the left to undermine our core values? Why do they push to undermine the family as really being the core teaching unit of society? I know that's part of your goal, is to really elevate families. Why do we have forces on the left that want to undermine families and our involvement in our children's education? What have you learned?
It's really interesting. And in fact, it does kind of make you wonder why. But there are some people like George Soros and like, unfortunately, President Obama and like Ocasio-Cortez that really believe in the utopian of the communist country or in the utopian of a Marxist society. There are those that believe. There are others that are actually profiting from it. So there are different people with different interests. But our interest is an interest of parents, communities, and people who believe in the greatness of our country, the exceptionalism of our country. In 1979, when the Department of Education was instituted, it was made very clear in the statutes that the parents have the primary responsibility of educating the children. And the schools, the localities, and the private institution, in fact, are in the primary role of supporting the parents. Unfortunately, what we have seen in the past 2 years, that the parents, not only they're not in the driver's seat, they are not even in the back seat of the car, they're completely pushed out of the car and saying, those are actually our kids. There are enough
And treated
videos.
like the enemy. And treated like the enemy is what how parents are feeling across the nation, because these forces are really seeking to miseducate. You mentioned Soros, you mentioned people in power, people who believe in this utopian idea of communism, Marxism. We have seen, if we look at history, we know what happens. We know what happens to nations who embrace those ideals. And these forces are seeking to miseducate, divide, and really foment resentment and political violence. This is a serious threat, and the stakes are so high. How do you find the courage to stand against these forces, to stand against organizations like the NSBA and the Department of Justice that labels you as a domestic terrorist? What kind of encouragement can you share with our listeners? Because, Elana, I think a lot of good people can't believe that there are such bad people, because many people are good people. And we can't understand what would motivate someone to want to move America away from the greatest nation in the world and label ourselves as inherently racist, right? And so a lot of people have a hard time believing it or understanding the concept and what's really happening. What kind of encouragement can you share? Because, I'm asking you 3-4 questions at once, but how did you battle and stand up against these organizations that labeled you as a domestic terrorist? How can you encourage our listeners?
So, what motivated me, in fact, there were 3 issues. First and foremost, my religious background, I'm Jewish, and I grew up in Israel. And I know from my history, and people should learn history so we don't repeat our mistakes.
Amen.
I know from my history what happened to us when we were in the ghettos in Europe. We ended up in the gas chambers. So unless you fight there, as I said, the summer of 2020 should have been really a witness to what we're going to be expecting if we are going to be hiding. They're coming after you in every possible way. So going to a ghetto, or even removing your kid from that particular school and finding, maybe if you find a school that does not engage in indoctrination, won't save you, because as long as we live in this community, as long as we live in this country and would like to preserve our freedom, we have to fight for it. We have to fight for it. So my background told me, and also as Israeli, as I said, I grew up in Israel, and we have witnessed still now, constant terrorism, constant threat to our very existence. There is Iran, and we are surrounded by countries that don't hide their intention of wiping Israel off the map, of the map. And if we were afraid and we would have succumbed to all the labels like racist, Nazi, and all those names calling, then that's their weapon, name calling. They're trying to intimidate us. Israel would not have been this the second Silicon Valley on the face of the earth with a population so small. So we really have to resist being afraid to name calling and just let them determine who we are and what we are. We have to stand up. The third thing is very, very important, which is it became very apparent to me from the beginning. This ideology is so insane and contradicting to the very foundation of our nation that I couldn't believe there would be more than 5% in the population that might be going along with that ideology. The great, great majority of Americans do not believe it, do not want it. That's why a big part of what we are doing is our first E, educate, expose. We are exposing what's happening and showing it to people. If I have another minute to share a story from yesterday that our chapter leader in Missouri shared with me.
Please do. We'd love to hear that. Yeah.
A wonderful Andy Wales. He's a veteran, 20 years in the military, special forces also. He was coming back from presenting in a conference in Ohio, and he was at the airport sitting with a lady next to him. He's a white guy, and she's a black lady, and they're just having a friendly conversation, asking each other what you are doing. And she's wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt. And as he was talking with her and telling her that he's fighting indoctrination in school and sexualizing our kids in school, and telling her about the books that they are teaching in school, our kids, that are completely pornographic, she could not believe it. She said, it can't be. She said, well, the organization that you're wearing their t-shirt promoting that. She did not believe it. So he went on their website, BLM website, as well as NEA, the Teachers Union, and on their website, BLM curriculum in school. That's how it's defined, BLM curriculum in school. And he showed her the curriculum, all the sexualization of kids, all the racist curriculum, nothing about academic. It's all about
nothing
social
about
justice
academic.
warrior. She wanted to burn her shirt right there.
Good for
on
her.
the spot. I'm getting home, I'm taking that shirt off, and I'm going to save that website on my phone, and I'm going to show all my friends. People do not know.
Well, this is exactly my point, is your voice is so important, because enough people don't know. It's the whole reason why we do this show. It's the reason why AMAC engages with leaders like yourself that love America, that care about families. We want to support you in any way that we can. This nation was built on Christian Judeo values. That's what this nation was built upon. And we need to understand that there's a force that wants to strip America of its greatness. Individual freedom, I pray, will never be a thing of the past. As long as AMAC is around, we're going to do everything we can. We are going to fight. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but COVID really, I think, took the blinders off of a lot of mothers' and fathers' eyes, and they were able to see, because we were, busy, day after day. You're working, your kids are off at school, they come home, maybe you're not asking the questions or seeing the work, but when everyone's home and you see your kid on a computer, you can hear what the teacher might be saying, and you're more inclined to look at the homework. And that's where I really don't know if we'd be here today able to fight the way that we're fighting had COVID not happened. What do you think? Far stretch, or do you agree that a lot was uncovered?
Absolutely. A lot of parents got firsthand look at what the teacher are saying to the kids and what they are taught in classes. Because of that, in fact, the classes and the teachers in the school now are hiding what they are teaching. And we're in a great battle and filing a lot of FOIAs around the country and paying money in order to expose what they are teaching. They are now having all sorts of laws and regulation to prevent parents from looking at what is happening. So COVID in many ways indeed was kind of a blessing. At the same time, still, many people are afraid of the cancel culture, of retribution at the workplace, at consequences to their kids if they object to what the teacher is teaching and not following, like you talked before, they don't teach them how to think, but what to think. And when it comes to what to think, there is only one orthodoxy, and they cannot veer from that orthodoxy. And parents are sharing with us that the kids are afraid to say anything but what the teacher is preaching because they don't want to have a lower grade, which will risk their future. So the way we work in No Left Turn in Education, that set us apart from a lot of organizations that you might see out there. Not only that we were the first one, definitely, and give courage to others to get up, but we are really the boots on the ground. And that's really what set us apart. We are right there taking the battle to where it is. We're not what it's called keyboard warriors sitting at home and sending messages. We are at school board meeting week after week. We are meeting with legislators. We are meeting with attorney general. We are meeting with governors. We are promoting legislation to ban critical race theory and other divisive material from kids. Definitely the pornographic material with the letter that I said to Mayor Garland.
Yeah, it's crazy that we could even be having a discussion that there's pornographic material being shared with our children in elementary school, children in first grade, second grade. This is unbelievable. This is so important. There is an absolute assault on our values. It's significant. The education of our kids is genuinely at risk, which means our future is at risk because our future depends on a generation of children that love America in order for us to preserve our greatness. And you are really in the middle of this battle every day. So I wanted to make sure before we let you go, if you could tell those listeners, our AMACers out there, how can they help retake America's education, help preserve what is best in education? What might you recommend people do? I know that they can go to your website. So we want to send them there. The links are here. What advice can you give to those listening today who want to get involved or want to make sure that their friends and neighbors and family members are aware that we ought to be on the lookout?
There are a few things. First, really go to our website and learn. There's a lot of information. Be informed about what's going on. And indeed,
NoLeftTurn.us, right?
NoLeftTurn.us. We also have Facebook pages for each state, and we are sharing the stories of what we are doing and how we are succeeding. And we have a lot of success stories from around the country. So it's very important to know that the fight pays off. We are succeeding in many, many states, and we should keep fighting. So we are the fighters, and we are the military. Our military is not only of parents. Our military is made of a lot of grandparents who know how this country was great and can continue to be great. But the kids' education is very important. Those are the leaders, future leaders of our great country. So be informed, inform your circle of friends and family. And please, as I said, we are the military. Not everybody can volunteer and fight, though we have a lot of grandparents who are volunteering with us. Go to our donate page. We are the military. We need the resources to fight. Unfortunately, I was a mother. I was not a politician. I was never a politician. I was not connected to any funding or big money or dark money. Actually, I'm welcoming any dark money because, they're blaming us for having dark money and we have no money. So that every $5, $10, whatever people can, so the military can do its job. Not everybody can do it. I can understand. I'm not judging. If you can join forces, please do. If you can't, or in any case, just go to our website.
And be sure, I want to encourage
$10.
people listening to be sure to talk to their friends and family, ask questions, hey, what is my daughter, my granddaughter, my grandson learning in school? Talk to your grandkids. So many of our AMACers, they're the greatest patriots here in America. They love this country. What's really interesting, Doctor, is our members said to us, we want AMAC to be at the front of this fight against critical race theory. And I know that they want us there because they are so smart to understand that our children are so important. We must depend on, we must, encourage and build families here in America and support the family unit, because that is where the children will learn the greatest lessons, right? And what you're doing, Dr. Fishbein, is so important. Thank you so much for being here and for all that you're doing. Any parting words to leave us with before we let you go? I know you're a busy gal.
Again, we have an exceptional nation. We shouldn't forget it. We need to preserve it, to preserve our freedom and our exceptional nation. So we make sure that we stay united. Our families are not being interrupted, and we are not birthing mothers or birthing person, or the fathers are not the non-birthing person or the non-birthing parent. So our families are sacred, our communities are sacred, and our nation is exceptional. Let's fight together to preserve that.
And leadership sure does begin with courage, and you are demonstrating what can happen if we have the courage of our convictions. Thank you again. And to all of our listeners, all of you AMACers out there, thank you so much for tuning in today. The reason why we do this show is to bring you news that you're not going to find in mainstream. If you haven't downloaded the AMAC News app, you can watch this show. You can track all kinds of breaking news right there on your smartphone. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button, like, follow, share wherever you are on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. Thanks for being here, and have a great day, everybody.
You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. To learn more about AMAC and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.